Have you ever felt unsure of starting your career in a new country? That was me, and I felt confused because planning to move to a new country was a step I've always dreamt of. I've wanted to come to Canada since the first time I visited Canada, but I was scared because starting my career afresh, it was daunting. I was intimidated. I was starting my career fresh. I would say kind of not really starting my career back home from Nigeria, but I was just kind of new to the game. I've only had like 4 years, or was it 3 years of experience in my home country, Nigeria, and I'm starting afresh in Canada. It was intimidating. I thought of switching to a different career. I thought of many things to do, different things other than pharmacy. I think pharmacy is choosing me because the first job I got moving to Canada was a job in a pharmacy as a pharmacy assistant. There, I learned a lot. At first, I saw how responsible you have to be for the lives of others. I saw how little things can cost you, a lot. Learning from the pharmacist I worked with, and long hours. It was, I think, stressful the way, from my opinion, from my standpoint, looking at the pharmacist I work with, I felt I couldn't do this. I felt I can never become a pharmacist in this country. But as time went by, I decided to start this journey because I couldn't think of any other career I could be at, or be in rather. I couldn't think of anything. I tried, but I just couldn't think of anything I could rather do. Pharmacy is the way I know how to help people. That's what I know, at least for now. I may not like pharmacy, but I like helping people. And so I decided, if this is the way God was going to use me to help people, or rather one of the ways He will use me, so be it. And I started the journey. I started the journey by registering for the exam. The exam was in June, and I registered in February, just before the deadline. I registered, and I was still working at the pharmacy. It was busy. I couldn't even squeeze time to read. I couldn't concentrate. And in May, actually, the last week of April, something happened, something that changed my prospect of passing the exam. Let me tell you, in the last week of April, I lost my job. I lost my job while I was still thinking of how I could figure out reading for the exam, studying for the exam, and passing it. I was in my head thinking I could take leave in the whole month of June so that I could, do my best to study, try hard in that short time, because the exam was June 26th. So I was thinking I could use, that was almost like 4 weeks, 3 weeks and some days. So I could put my all in those 3 weeks and see what could come out of it, But I lost my job. And that was disheartening, but it gave me opportunity to study. So the whole of May, I was free. And so I could study, I could read, I could learn. I could, I had all the time, free time. Although emotionally I was kind of destabilized, but I seized the opportunity. I braced myself. Rather, I'll say God helped me brace myself. Like, He put me together, put my mental health together, put my emotional health together, aligned me to prepare for the exam. I passed. I passed the PEBC Evaluating Exams. I did it. God helped me do it. From my point of view, this was how the exam went. It's multiple choice questions. It was 140 questions in total, divided into two parts. Or two sections, yeah. Section 1 was 70 questions, section 2 is another 70 questions. I think the overall exam was like how many minutes? I guess, yeah, 3 hours, I guess. 3 hours. The questions were not difficult. I won't say the questions were not were difficult or not difficult. The questions taxed you mentally in terms of how can you handle a situation, most of the question some questions were like the pharmaceutical sciences part were like straight, if you know it you know it, if you don't you don't. Pharmacy practice, that's what, like, oh, you have to think what is the best case scenario, what should I do, what's the best thing to do as a pharmacist. Yes, and the, I think, administrative behavioral part, yeah, that's, you have to read up on that, Canada, this health sector in Canada, yeah, things like that. Aside from studying, I mentioned that it's good to do sample questions as much as possible. And when I say sample questions, I'm not just saying, because most question banks, they have the answers to those. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying use sample questions and cram the answers. No, that's not how to do it. Use sample questions, research the questions and the options if there are in those question banks. Most likely there will be. They have AI tools. Research on ChatGPT, research on Copilot, use Gemini, use DeepSeek, any AI tool. Copy those questions on AI, any AI assistant. Copy those questions as well as the options. It will give you an answer and the explanation. So it's not the answer. As a pharmacist, you would know where this answer makes sense or not. You would know. If it follows, if it makes sense, you would know. So sometimes on those question banks, the answer may not be right. Why? Because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't just make sense. Sometimes too, the answer from one AI assistant will differ from another AI assistant. You would use the explanation if it makes sense. You follow the sequence of the explanation. As a pharmacist, you have an idea, what the explanation would be like. So if it makes sense, then you go with the answer. So it trains you to think critically. It trains you to think holistically, not just cramming an answer, but helping you to understand how we arrive at this conclusion, helping you to understand the reason why, helping you to think critically. And sometimes you may have to, search textbooks to, help you understand better, things like that. Yeah. So that's the method I used. I hope it works for you this time. Thank you very much for listening. I wish you the very best.